Welcome everyone. This is Sachin Gaur on behalf of Innovative Vishwa Curious. I welcome you for this fantastic topic of the day, and we have a great line of speakers today, starting with Dr. Satyan, who is the director for Satyan Eye Care Hospital and also Coimbatore Glaucoma Foundation. Welcome you, sir. Welcome, Dr. Satyan.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Very good evening, friends. I am Dr. Satyan Parthasarathy, glaucoma specialist from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all for this another COVID webinar on the fundus imaging. We have put it as beyond routine. We all do the autorefractometer, NCT, and everything. We are just looking at the fundus photography is also yet another more that you may have to do it in your clinical practice to get the best diagnosis possible. So without much delay, I would like to introduce today's speakers. We have Mr. Fabian Chatwin from the Eye Care Centerview. He is a downstream marketing manager. We have Dr. Mansi Sharma is a consultant from vitreoretinal diseases at the Grewal Eye Institute, Chandigarh, and we have Dr. Prasanna Venkatesh from Trichy, Tamil Nadu. He is a glaucoma specialist. And then we have Dr. Kishore Pahuja, he is the director from Natasha Eye Hospital. So we have good speakers here to talk to us about multiple areas where you can use the fundus imaging in the best of the ways. May I invite Mr. Fabian to start today's topic. He is going to talk to us about the introduction to add-on the technology difference. Over to you, Fabian.
Yes. Hello, I'm Fabian. Can you see my screen? And I'm gonna do an introduction.
Fabian.
Yes?
Fabian, we are not seeing your screen. Yeah, now yes.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, I'm Fabian Cedrati, Downstream Marketing Manager for Eye Care Centerview. And here I'm gonna make you a short introduction about our EIDON TrueColor. Okay, that you see the product here in the photo with the background of our city Padova. And regarding our city Padova, just very brief word about the company. Centerview is now part of Eye Care Centerview Group. We are a worldwide company, and we are now merging with Eye Care in a company, Eye Care Centerview, which is Eye Care is the Finland company that makes the famous rebound tonometers. And now, so our company makes rebound tonometers and imaging products. And we are now on the road to become leader in glaucoma and retina diagnostics. So, traditional fundus cameras images are like the one you see here on the right. A traditional fundus camera is a non-confocal system. And what are the challenges? Like this, it's a 45 degrees image and has a lower resolution and usually is manually operated and has a minimum pupil issue that usually is very difficult to take photos below 3.5 millimeter and requires dilation. A product like the EIDON has a wider field. The single photo is a 60 degrees photo and use this technology called TrueColor Confocal Scanner, which, as I will show in the next photo, has less affected by media opacities and has a very high resolution and is fully automatic and can take photo with a minimum pupil down to 2.5 millimeter. And about the quality and the resolution, you can easily zoom on and you have a very, very crispy image and a very good optical resolution, which has nothing to do with the megapixels. It's the resolution of the image that you can see is compared to the other cameras in the market. As we can see also in this image of the same eye, how do you see a photo on a standard fundus camera, and how do you see with the iCare CenterVue EIDON product? Beautiful photos can come also when you have an average cataract, like the image below. They're all from the same eye. Standard fundus cameras with the standard technology cannot usually take good photos through average cataract, while EIDON can usually do better if there are any media opacities. And also we have a very beautiful mosaic photo that can go up to 150 degrees, keeping the same high resolution. The merge of the photo is very easy to do, and it goes up to 150 degrees in one click. In one click, the system and merge together in a wide field high resolution photo. And we have multiple models of the EIDON, so we can take different modalities. We can take the standard color photo, like we can see here, the 60 degrees high resolution color photo. We can take the red-free, of course, photo, and the system using the confocal technology can take also a very good infrared photo. And then there is a second model called EIDON AF, that can take also an autofluorescence photo, of course, also the color and red-free and infrared. And the latest model is the model with fundus, the model with fluorescein angiography, the EIDON FA, which can take all the modalities and FA included. And regarding the FA, we have a very high quality FA system that can also take videos. To have an early stage, there are very few models on the market that can take video of fluorescein angiography, and you can take a mosaic and you keep a very high resolution also in the video of also in the image of the fluorescein angiography. And it's very easy to use. It has a very user-friendly tablet interface. It's all operated by touch screen and buttons. On the left, we see of the fluorescein angiography. So also the burden to take difficult examination is, and I think we are going to see this also in the next presentations. And it has a very nice interface from the browser, web-based remote viewer. So you don't need to install any specific software to make the review of the images, but you can use your standard browser on a PC or on a tablet, and even on the phone. And it's touch-friendly and very, very easy. So thank you. This is, I leave you with this beautiful photo of diabetic retinopathy, and that can see very small details of the image. Dr. Satyan?
Yeah, thank you, Fabian. Okay, thank you so much. Fabian, just stay back till the session is over. We will have some question and answers as well. Okay.
Of course.
Okay. So, thank you. I'll just hello. Can you? Yeah. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah. Good evening, friends. From microscope to bioscope. Why fundus photo in my practice? So basically, I'm just going to convince you from the following headers. My first camera, the slit lamp examination versus the fundus photography, how you can connect it with the LAN, and is that we really have a problem with our time in our OPD, and what is the economics? Are we really satisfied with that? So this is my first camera, which is very fast and easy and a fully automated camera. Before that, I was just using the images, which is the printouts. I'll just discuss that a little later. And this is the true workhorse. Though I have my ADA now, but the DRS is the true workhorse, I would say. It's a fantastic the camera, which I've used. So the introduction was by Dr. Venkatesh from Dharmaburi. He said, just try this once, sir, and then you let me know how it is. Till that time, I haven't used this, the DRS, and then I was really kind of excited to use this fantastic machine. Then we went on for the next version, the add-on fundus camera. And of course, I bought the BQ900, which I thought is one of the best in the market to see the fundus and then see how the photographs are. Just to show you that we have come a long way in our track, and we could take a good fundus images from the slit lamp as well, but you can just see that how small the images are. It's not adequate for you to really enlarge and see. So you can see that the first bit when you look at, we start looking at the disk, then we start looking at the vessels on the background, then we start looking at the macula. So this is of course, we can magnify, and also we can increase the width of the slit to see a little bit wider area, but it is still not very good enough to see like this. You can see this, how the difference is, how much is the difference it makes. You can see the slit lamp fundus, and then you can see from the fundus image of the add-on machine, they can actually cover an area of between 30 to 150 degrees. Of course, 150 is the manual. Always we can cover in automated ways about 120 degrees. So you can see that how much is the coverage, or even if you see a single eye, small views, also the clarity of the images is far more superior. That is mainly because of the SLO technology. Even in a very small people, like a 2.5 or even 1.8, 1.9, we can still take. But I can't openly say that, but at least 2.2 onwards, we can definitely take a good fundus images with the SLO systems. But the normal cameras, you really may not be able to get that. And also, as Fabian was mentioning about the red tree, blue images, and the green images, you can really very well see the vessels and also the nerve fiber layer defect and the deeper layers, because the SLO, you can even see the deeper layers very, very clear with the fundus imaging. And there are multiple editing tools. Probably the following speakers will just talk about that. And then I was just, even before I was just purchasing these machines, I was just going through the comparisons between the fundus image versus the traditional fundus examination. And almost all the papers have clearly quoted that the image-assisted fundus examination definitely is a much better one than the regular fundus examination, especially if you have a patient above the age of 40 years, the people is much, much smaller than those with the lesser age groups. And of course, we have a good practice flow and the comfort with these machines, but how that can be achieved. That's why I put it as a LAN connectivity. Many of us, we don't use the LAN connectivity to see in our computers, in our clinical rooms. We try to see that in the hard copies, but that's not the way I would explain you here. You can really see the in any of the clinics. So the waiting time is a major issue for all of us. But does that get altered in our taking a fundus photograph? So I've just taken another example here. Every area there is a waiting. Truly speaking, we don't really have an additional time for this because this takes only about a couple of minutes for both eyes to be taken. So there is no real difference in the waiting time. So these are the areas where we are really concerned. Another area of concern for is patients. I'm just giving a very, very low price of say 100 rupees if you're going to do a fundus photography. Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Hello, Dr. Satyan. We are not able to hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear now? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now. Please. And I request other panelists, maybe
Hello?
you can switch off camera for now so that we have better bandwidth. Yes, Dr. Satyan, please continue.
I think. Hello.
Sir, we can hear you. We can hear you. Please continue.
Okay. Okay. I was just waiting because I couldn't hear anybody's voice. So yeah. Is Prasanna ready? I mean, Dr. Mansi ready? Dr. Mansi?
Sure.
Ready, sir.
We will make
Can
Dr.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the presenter.
Yeah. I'm sorry
Yes.
for the delay. So Dr. Mansi is going to share us the experience with the diabetic retinopathy, how she is using her fundus camera. And I'm sure, Dr. Mansi, you have published the book on the fundus photography from the ADAM people. I believe you were one of the authors in that. So over to you.
Yeah, I had published an atlas recently. It's an interesting one. If anyone wants to have a look, I'll send the link. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I'll start with the presentation. Just a minute. Okay, so since already Fabian and Dr. Satyan have explained you all the benefits of using such a wonderful machine, I'll be straight away going into the clinical applications of that. So how do you use an IDON fundus fluorescein angiography machine in your clinical practice to assess diabetic retinopathy, right? So just with some few clinical examples. Number one, we all know for a retinologist, the most important thing is to detect the presence and extent of retinal edema in case of a diabetic. So as you can see in this case, it's a 54-year-old diabetic for the past 12 years with complaints. Now, if you see these montage color fundus photo, you can see laser marks 360-degree all around in both the eyes. You can see a couple of hemorrhages in certain quadrants, but macula grossly looks normal. So you don't really know why there is blurring of vision. So obviously for a diabetic, am I audible? Yeah. So for a diabetic, angiography would be the gold standard. This is the high resolution video fundus fluorescein angiography. So I'll just try to play the video. Yeah. So it captures a few seconds before you inject the dye. So you may be getting such a little bit of a blank image. Then you see the way, dye entering the vessels. All these microaneurysms are highlighted, as you can see later on, and you can see all these laser marks which are seen as dark hypofluorescent spots in the periphery. If you're very careful, you can see this highlighted NVE in the temporal part of the macula. Of course, to assess an angiography, you need the late frame as well. So in the same patient, when we see the late frame, you see massive amount of leakage from these multiple microaneurysms, which was highlighted in the early frames. And also you can pinpoint the NVE in the temporal quadrant. Of course, you need a supplement PRPN in injection. So it is really useful. The other eye also had a lot of diffuse macular edema. So it really helps us, assess the extent and type of macular edema. So coming on to the next type of maculopathy, of course, you need to know in a diabetic whether your maculopathy is focal, whether your maculopathy is diffuse or ischemic, because whether you're going in for a steroid injection, an anti-VEGF or a laser, all depends on that. So I'll just show you an example of focal maculopathy. So again, a diabetic, you see clinically significant macular edema in both the eyes. There is this beautiful hard exudate so clearly delineated due to this true color image. Now going on straight to the angiography part of it. So again, a video, you have to choose between one of the eyes. So whichever one of you has is more clinically important to you, you tell your operator to focus on that eye. So again, as in the veins, dye starts to enter into the retinal vessels. You can see the beautiful laminar flow, couple of blocked fluorescent patches due to the hemorrhages. You see the beautiful microaneurysm all close to the macular area near the fovea. Now, just based on this, you won't be able to plan your management. You need the late frame. So as we move on to the next slide, you can see in the late frame, all these pinpoint microaneurysms you were picking up early are becoming fuzzy, becoming leaky. If you do a scan through these areas, you're definitely going to get macular edema. So this can help you plan your management. You can identify these spots, and whatever spots are 300 or 500, whatever you're following in your clinical practice, microns away from the center, you can target and laser them. So we did focal laser in this patient, significant reduction in edema and resolution of hard exudates. Though there is still significant amount of DME, and you need to ask the patient to maintain a good metabolic control. Coming on the next type of maculopathies, ischemic. So again, they're 52-year-old diabetic. If you see clinically, the picture on the left-hand side to most of us would appear much worse than that on the right-hand side. However, if you go on to check the best corrected visual acuity, it's in fact far worse in the right eye compared to the left eye. Now, scan doesn't reveal much to us. It's practically normal with a few hard exudates, a couple of cystoid spaces in one corner, but nothing really much happening in the central foveal part. So how do you explain this vision being so less in the right eye? So an angiography comes to your rescue. So we did an FFA, of course, focusing on the right eye, and you see there's circulation, there's vein, dye entering in the superior part. However, close to the fovea, temporal to the fovea, you have these non-filling patches, the CNP areas. So there is extensive amount of macular ischemia. You can identify the broken phase, and it's so clearly seen on all of this. So hence the reduction in visual acuity. You may not be able to do much about it because it is primarily related to ischemia and not related to macular edema. However, you need a stricter control, hence the visual acuity lesson in the right eye. So this is just the late frames of the same both eyes. You do see that the phase is much broken and irregular in the right eye as compared to the left eye, and despite having more macular edema. Sorry?
Go ahead,
So
go ahead, Dr. Mansi.
Delineating that broken phase area and ischemic area for you. Coming on to the last type of maculopathy I'll be talking about is diffuse macular edema. So again, diabetic, hypertensive, you see those typical cotton wool spots in the periphery. You see a lot of these hemorrhages. You may notice a difference in the color of the images between the two. That's primarily because the eye on the right eye is pseudophakic and the one on the left is phakic. So you see this color image. This is how we get it in IDON. Just a little bit of close-up. So you do see a lot of hard exudates, maculopathy, suggestive of typical diabetic retinopathy. Coming on to the angiogram part. So see in the angiogram, a couple of microaneurysms are coming up, not much. Little bit of blocked fluorescence due to the hemorrhages. Now, when we straight away jump onto the late frame, you see a diffuse amount of leakage, which is not explained by those 1 or 2 hemorrhages which saw one or two microaneurysm which we picked up on the early frame. So there is diffuse macular edema. Your management may change. Lasers don't, unless it's a grid laser, really don't work too well in it. And Ozurdex or an intravitreal steroid injection might be your first choice. So it is really helping you decide on which patient you're going to take up for laser, which patient you want to treat with steroids or anti-VEGF. In this patient, we did go ahead with a grid laser and a PRP, because if you clearly notice in the infero-nasal quadrant, there is a big NVE patch. So we went ahead, did a PRP, not affording for Ozurdex. We had no option but to give grid laser a go, and did pretty well. Another important function is to assess the retinal blood flow time. So there was this one-eyed gentleman we operated for a diabetic tractional detachment. A little bit of residual traction was left behind. The disc is very pale. His vision was 6/9, but he kept on developing these recurrent NVIs despite us having done a very heavy 360-degree laser. So how do you explain this recurrent ischemic phenomena, recurrent neovascularization? So we went ahead and did an angiography of the patient. If you notice, normally you would expect the dye to come into the eye at 8 seconds, 10 seconds, or even 12 seconds. But in this gentleman, despite waiting for a good 40 seconds, not even a single amount of dye entered the eye. So there was extremely prolonged arm retinal circulation time. It was an ocular ischemic syndrome. We did have a carotid Doppler of the patient. There was carotid stenosis. We had to refer him to the cardiologist. So you might be missing, it might not be related to primarily ocular pathology, and a delayed arm retinal circulation time may be a useful indicator for so. So in the same patient, diffuse ischemia and this macular CNP area, you may want to consider adding a grid to this, considering the patient had recurrent NVIs. Of course, it helps you to identify capillary non-perfusion areas and target application of laser photocoagulation. So this is again a diabetic patient. If you notice, there are cotton wool spots in the left eye nasal inferior aspect. There is a front of neovascularization with some kind of fibrous proliferation as well. You need an angiogram to manage such patients to know what you're dealing with. So if you see carefully, this is the right angiography video. As we proceed further, you can see in the superior-nasal, keep your eye on the superior-nasal aspect, you'll see a beautiful front of neovascularization. There it comes up. It lights up like a sea fan, and you have multiple other NVs in the temporal aspect, but that particular front is very big. So here you have a highlighted neovascularization. So in other frames, again, the late frame of the same patient, all the NVs are beautifully lit up. You can see all these CNP areas inferiorly around it, and you target your laser according to that, avoiding the NV areas to prevent any kind of proliferation in the later phase. So the same patient, we complete a PRP and anti-VEGF injection if it has macular edema, and hopefully stabilize them with a good control. Again, a similar patient, inadequate PRP, very few laser marks all around. You see a good amount of pre-retinal bleed already in the left eye, little bit of traction in the right eye. Again, we go ahead, do an angiography of the patient. We are primarily focusing on the left eye, which has already bled. So as and when you proceed further, you notice inferiorly, if you look, you will see a patch of blocked fluorescence, which is due to the bleed that you're seeing. And just next to that blocked fluorescence, you see a patch of highlighted lacy network of blood vessels, which is the NVE. So you know where it is bleeding from. There are multiple NVEs. If you look at the disc, there is an NVD also. So it is in high-risk PDR, which has already bled and may bleed further if you're not too aggressive about it. So we were pretty aggressive about this patient. He had a high-risk PDR, both the eyes already bleeding in the left eye. We went ahead, did an injection, did a laser, and you can see how beautifully the inset picture is the previous one. So after the laser and injection, the front has regressed, the bleed has settled down, and we were able to medically manage the patient. Next is important is detection and extent of neovascularization of disc and elsewhere. We've already seen a couple of examples of this, but a few more. So here you see in both the eyes, there is extensive neovascularization at the disc. There is a fibrous tissue growing. So next, sorry. Yeah, so we do an angiography of the patient. Same, it's difficult to choose which eye. Both of them have quite an aggressive disease, so which eye the video should go to. And you see an extensive neovascular network, right, extending from the disc inferiorly, superiorly, so florid neovascularization you can identify. And of course, when you're doing PRP, you target it away from this. So again, this is showing extensive NVD in both the eyes, extensive NVE. You know you have to manage using a laser. It also helps you to monitor what response to your therapy is happening if you do an angiogram later after your intervention. Again, a diabetic for past 12 years, poor metabolic control, already has bled in the left eye, extensive pre-retinal bleed. The right eye has this big front of neovascularization right at the disc. PRP looks grossly inadequate. You do an angiogram, you see diffuse leakage from that neo complex right at the disc and the macula in the right eye. And if you're careful enough, other than the block fluorescence, you can also see this neovascularization at the disc in the left eye. So you know you're dealing with a very, very severe case of PDR, and if untreated, it may go blind. So we had no option but to do a surgery in the left eye. You see, we've been able to clear up the bleed and laser. The right eye is still thinking about what to do. Is not too keen for surgery. Sometimes in your clinical practice, you may encounter unexplained vision loss. By that, what I mean is clinically, the photo may be not as bad and the scans may not be as bad as the visual acuities. As in this case, it was almost counting finger 2 meters in both the eyes. Of course, you have a little bit of hint because the sclerosed vessels can be seen at the macula, which is a hint that it may be ischemic maculopathy. But of course, how do you confirm it? So we did an angiogram again, and you see there is gross ischemia right at the macula. Almost half of the macula is knocked out. There is already neovascularization still at the disc despite an extensive PRP. So there is diffuse macular ischemia, and that is accounting for all the vision loss. So even in the late frames, you can see totally knocked out areas of perfusion in the macula, explaining for extremely poor vision in the right eye. And I think this is one of the few last slides. So identification of IRMA is another very, very important thing because your whole management changes whether you're going to do a PRP or not. So again, a 59-year-old female diabetic with a poor control. Now I'll just zoom in. Of course, you see the beautiful myelinated fiber in the left eye, various features of diabetic retinopathy, too many to elaborate, frankly, dot blot hemorrhages, superficial hard exudates. If I focus onto the finding, this is what I'm trying to talk about. So what you see in the focused image is this branching network, which is extending between two major blood vessels, not really crossing over. That is there in both the eyes. Now, is it an NVE or is it an IRMA? It is very difficult to say clinically, though there are certain clinical indicators which may help you. But a best way to identify what we are dealing with is again an angiogram, differentiate between them. So as and when you focus on the particular patch, it was right on the superior aspect of the disc. You see the vessels are filling up, but there is no leakage. There is no intense leakage of NDE that we saw in the previous photos. So clearly we are dealing with an NDE and not an NDE. You don't really need to be so aggressive and ask the patient to go ahead and get an PRP. Both the eyes had bilateral IRMA, severe NPDR, needs strict metabolic control and anti-VEGF if has macular edema. The last one, be careful, not all bleed in diabetics are diabetic bleed. So this was a 54-year-old with diabetes since 7 years, fairly okay control. If you are careful, you can see all these mild changes of diabetic retinopathy, including dot blood hemorrhages, few hard exudates in both the eyes, few cotton wool spots. And he came with the complaint of sudden onset of floaters in the left eye. So if you see, you can see all these beautiful hemorrhages, pre-retinal hemorrhages in the vitreous in the left eye. Now, at one glance, one may think he's a diabetic, he has a bleed, it's a diabetic bleed. But once we did the angiogram of the left eye, of course, you see the beautiful blocked fluorescence in the left eye, few microaneurysms in the right eye, but we are not able to identify even a single NVE in all the quadrants. So it was a PVD related bleed in a diabetic. You don't really need to be very aggressive about PRP and other things. You just need to keep him under metabolic control, frequent observation, because such PVD associated with hemorrhages is at high risk of retinal breaks. He had no retinal break. We are just managing him conservatively. He just came to our clinic last week. So that was my last case. Hence, of course, we all know it's a very useful diagnostic procedure for documentation, following up, maintaining a record, and understanding how your patient is responding to your treatment. And of course, EDON FFA, like I showed you, all these videos, they provide you very detailed dynamic view of the blood circulation. It's an ultra high resolution video, and it's so easy for our operators. They don't find any difficulty. It's almost a computer guided for them, and it improves our workflow. It's quick, easy. We can just assess the angiogram on our browser and we are good to go. So yes, it's an excellent tool for us in a clinical practice, and we have been routinely, it has replaced our conventional angiography completely for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mansi, for the wonderful pictures and the videos. Yeah, even your book was wonderful, actually. I wanted to congratulate you on your book as well. So if somebody wants to see your book, Can you just suggest where they can go and buy, or they can see where they can see?
It's on JP Publications. It's by JP Publications. If you search on Amazon, you can find a link. And I think otherwise, Anil and all, they know a link for where to buy. But I think it's available on Amazon. It's by JP Publications. It's called Retina Atlas. I'll try to put up a video of that on maybe a screenshot of the cover page at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dr. Mansi. So next we have the presentation by Dr. Prasanna. Instead of, I would put that post-COVID-19, in the presence of COVID-19, how really it is useful to use a fundus camera in a high volume setup. Prasanna is the third generation ophthalmologist from Trichy. Over to you, Prasanna.
Is my screen visible, sir?
Can see your screen.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Good evening, friends. I'm going to share my experience and outcomes in high volume practice post COVID-19. So when Corona happened in India, we as eye care professionals needed to innovate. That is what we did here in Trichy was the previous waiting hall, we converted it into an OPD and investigation cubicle. So we brought all the modalities that we use for investigation under a common roof, including the confocal fundus photography. So this was a picture of our pre-COVID waiting hall. We converted it into an investigation cubicle. As you can see, a transparent acrylic material which we used to make it into a square-shaped in isolation investigative cubicle. So inside the cubicle, you can see the slit lamp with applanation tonometer, the lensometer, the non-contact tonometer, and the EDON confocal fundus photography with the EMR and OCT and so on. So what we did was, once we brought all the machines under a common roof, we provided some sliders so that when we are not using the particular modality, we keep it closed. So moving on to the EDON confocal true color fundus photography, which we are going to see in this particular presentation. It is a non-contact, non-mydriatic fundus camera. As Fabian and Dr. Satyan sir has pointed out, the total examination time is around approximately 30 to 40 seconds maximum cumulatively for both eyes. It provides an excellent simultaneous visualization of both the fundus, thus helping in a good comparative examination, especially being an anti-segment glaucoma specialist. And also in this cubicle, we have provided a leg rest so that the patients may be comfortably oriented or at ease when the test is being performed to them. So what we focus, again, another particular prototype model, what we did here is the slit lamp and fundus camera was positioned side by side. As you can see the red marker highlighting it. So in a real-time situation, so this is the EDON confocal fundus camera. And as I take over from Dr. Satyan sir, which he was trying to say about the LAN, the local access network. Here you can see that with the help of a local access network, the output has been taken and connected to a PC desktop. So once the fundus or the anti-segment examination is done by the slit lamp, the fundus examination can be excellently viewed in the PC desktop. The advantage of viewing a soft image or a soft rather than a hard copy images, the zoom can be done, all the 360-degree view can be beautifully viewed, and we cannot even miss a single small finding because of the high resolution capability of the EDON fundus photography. This is a workflow tool of what I am doing. So this is a pupil of the patient who presents to us in a non-mydriatic pupil. So once the patient is positioned at the EDON or the confocal fundus photography, the investigator or the sister just enters the data of the patient and the machine takes over from the sister and it automatically detects by the means of an internal fixating target. It follows the principle of segmentation and localization by circular Fourier domain by segmenting and providing a true color confocal image. First the right eye is examined and then automatically the machine shifts to the left eye. So this is a real-time video. I have not fast forwarded or anything. So where you can see that it takes approximately only 30 seconds for the patient's fundus to get imaged. So the advantage is once the patient's fundus is imaged, and we don't need, it's not a technician dependent image. The technician just needs to start the modality, that's it. So once the patient is imaged, automatically the patient then comes to the slit lamp cubicle where the doctor will be present. A small history will be taken, followed by an anti-segment examination by the slit lamp. Once the slit lamp examination for the anti-segment is done, the fundus examination will be done on the PC desktop relay, where we can see the right eye of the patient, and then the comparative examination with the left eye is done, and the zoom is being used. As Fabian also pointed out, the image is having excellent resolution. It does not pixelate on zooming. As we saw, the localization and the segmentation profile is beautifully done in the EDON confocal fundus photography. Localization is where all the four major blood vessels ends into the optic nerve. The machine detects the optic nerve by identifying the four major blood vessels: the superior temporal, inferior temporal, superior nasal, and the inferior nasal blood vessels. Once the optic nerve has been identified, now with the help of circular hoop transform, the disc and the cup is differentiated. So let us see the real-time EDON's display and how it undergoes segmentation and localization. So this is the display of the EDON. Once the data has been fed and the mission has been initiated, with the help of an internal fixating target, it starts to automatically focus the retina. So first you see that with the help of the four major trunks ending into the optic nerve, it first detects the optic nerve head as seen in this video. It is the localization of the optic nerve as seen here. Once the localization is underwent, now the segmentation of the cup and the disc takes place along with detailed structures in the background of the retina. So this is a real-time video again. Maximum 30 seconds for both eyes is what it takes. So once it is done, since we are now facing a COVID crisis, we sterilize the headrest and the chin rest, and also the appendages of the cubicle with sanitized with the sterilium, so that the risk of virus transmission is avoided. And the leg mat can also be cleaned intermittently subsequently. The challenging factor that was put to rest when the 90-day after examination was done in the pre-COVID era initially was the doctor was inadvertently accidentally touching the patient's face mask or the patient's face. And also, if you are a person who are using the face shield, then you are ending up with poor visualization and you had a very poor stereoscopic view of the fundus. Being a glaucoma specialist, stereoscopic view is very important in detecting subtle disc changes for glaucomatous diagnosis. This is a real-time video eliciting where I'm trying to concentrate in avoiding touching the patient's face, but in view of a good stereoscopic view, inadvertently I end up touching the patient's face or the face mask, which we don't want to do in this kind of an era. And I did a study was done on what was to evaluate the outcomes with the automatic non-mydriatic confocal fundus photograph. Our aim was to evaluate how is the quality of the non-mydriatic image. The company claims 2.5 millimeters and above, the image is good. But let us see how in real-time study it really works and how effective it is in diagnosing the pathology. So 831 consecutive patients attending the OPD, that is 1,662 eyes, were screened with EDON confocal fundus photography from May 5 to May 23. That is precisely during the third phase of the lockdown when we were slowly starting our practice. So out of the 1,662 eyes, 123 eyes were excluded due to logistic reasons and 1,539 eyes were included in the study. The 123 eyes that were excluded due to logistic reasons were predominantly ACCO, uveitis, foreign body, hordeolum internum, bullous keratopathy, chalazion, and so on. For example, we had a single patient here, as you can see, back issues. The patient was not able to cooperate because of a back issue. So apart from this 123 patients, the remaining 1,539 patients underwent quality checking based on even illumination of the image, good focus, absence of any bright artifacts, that is white noise, absence of dark artifacts, black noise, and image acquisition signals influenced by pupil size and media opacities like cataract. And we classified them into good, medium, poor, and no image. So this is a good quality image, as you can see, an inferior temporal BRVO, as also beautifully pointed out by Dr. Mansi. And this is a good quality image of right eye, again showing a zoomed image where the pixelation is not taking place. It's a high resolution image showing a central serous retinopathy here. And this is a medium quality image. An image was defined as medium quality if it is 50 to 70% of the image was having good quality, and 25% of the image had dark noise. As you can see, inferiorly there are some dark noises here on the left hand side of your screen, and on the right hand side of your screen you can see some dark noises here in the inferior part, followed by some white noise in the superior part. The left hand side image looked more like a toxoplasmic scar. In the right hand side image here you can see a neovascularization of the disc. And this is a poor quality image. A poor quality image was defined as poor if it had more of dark noises in predominantly 360 of the images, followed by some white noises here, or rather on the right hand side of the screen you can see that 60% of the image was not possible to acquire because of the dark noises and also some white noises, which could be due to pupil or due to the cataractous nature of the patient. And this is a no image where you can see that there are only 10% of the image is visible. Here you can see only the optic nerve that is visible on the left hand side image of your screen. On the right hand side also, we tried an image, but it is totally black. We don't get an image at all. So the results were compiled for the 1,539 eyes that were screened from May 5 to May 23rd, 2020. And the total number of good quality images obtained were 1,079. That is 70% of the images were good. So this is the graph I would like to share in my personal experience. A good quality was 70%, medium quality was 16%, and poor quality was 6%. I was not able to obtain images in around 8% of the patients. 8% meaning 129 eyes. And the pupil size was compared versus the image quality. So for a good image quality, you can see the pupil size was relatively higher as expected. In the right eye, as shown in the graph below, for a good image, the pupil size was 3.22, and in the left eye, it was 2.62. And for a medium quality image, the pupil size slightly dropped from 3.22 in the right eye to 2.99, and from 2.62 to 2.30 in the left eye. And the poor quality image, it subsequently dropped even further, less than 2.5 millimeters, as Fabian pointed out. One can appreciate the graph decreasing in size from the left hand side to right hand side, indicating that pupil does play a role. And why no imaging was possible in 129 eyes was 76% of them had mature cataract, or rather no view of the fundus was possible, and in the remaining 31 eyes, that is 24%, the pupil size was less than 2 millimeters. The 1,410 images which were done, 88% of them were normal funduses and 12% of them were pathological funduses. Out of the pathologies, the majority of pathologies that we saw was non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy, already diagnosed glaucoma on treatment, ARMD, PDR treated with PRP, and newly diagnosed glaucoma, and so on. I would just want you to see this graph, which again is a representation of the table. So 29% of them were newly diagnosed with non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. 12% of them were already on treatment on glaucoma diagnosis, and 11% of them were age-related macular degeneration. 9% of the patients have PDR, that is proliferative diabetic retinopathy, with PRP done previously. So it was already diagnosed. The most important finding was the remaining two curves, the remaining two pie diagrams here. That is, the 6% of them were newly diagnosed glaucoma patient, and it was done without a 90-day examination on slit lamp. And the remaining 5% is a newly diagnosed proliferative diabetic retinopathy. And 28% of the fundus were others. Others meaning, as you can see in this table inferiorly, we had one patient retinoschisis, cystoid macular edema, subhyaloid hemorrhage, etc. And as Satyan sir was trying to point out with the LAN interconnectivity, the local access network, once we connect the machine with the computer, the advantage is the doctor's moving time to the machine can be avoided, and multiple doctors in a single institute can view a beautiful zoomed image at their point where they are sitting. And also, the patient can be emailed a soft copy can be done. And being a glaucoma practitioner, I would just close my presentation with this practice pattern, where I would do a fundus picture for a patient. This was a confusing scenario as to whether a patient was having glaucoma or not. Once a fundus picture was done, a zoomed examination helped me reveal that the RNFL was completely healthy in the superior and inferior quadrants in both the eyes, putting all speculations to rest that this is not a glaucomatous disc. And a clean-cut case of glaucoma, if the patient arrived, it helps us in documenting and risk profiling the patient. In the right eye, we have an inferior notch, and in the left, again, we have a 0.9 or a GOA cupping. And this mission also gives us risk profiling by terms of an objective structural assessment in terms of a cup disc ratio measurement tool, which gives you the cup disc ratio up to 2 decimal points, 0.88. So next time, if another doctor examines the patient, there will be no confusion as to whether it is 0.8 or whether it is 0.85. Rather, we will be more close to precision as much as possible. And in case of a normal tension glaucoma, as you can see an inferior splinter hemorrhage on the left side of your screen, the same patient can be followed up subsequently, showing the resolution of the splinter hemorrhage beautifully with precision can be followed up. The structure function correlation loss in glaucoma, as you can see the superior notch seen on the right hand side of your screen's fundus camera. So the structural damage can also be correlated with the functional damage on the left hand side. That is the polar analysis of the visual field screen in octopus. So multiple advantages are there. Adding to one more thing, that is if there is a dense cataract, this is an example of NO6 NC6, that is a grade 6 cataract where no image was possible or a poor quality image was possible. With the help of a gamma filter, as you can see here, which comes with the machine itself, by using the gamma filter, the image quality is enhanced and reconstructed. And now, with the help of a zoom, we get a more detailed view of the fundus. What patient fundus we would have documented as hazy view, which may be normal in a manual examination in slit lamp 90D, now turns out to be a left side glaucomatous pallor. As you can see, there is even laminar dot sign that is beautifully depicted. And also there is an app device by Dr. Satyan sir, the eye drop reminder light, which helps you in attaching the patient's soft copy itself to the patient, so that even if the patient loses follow-up to us, the patient will contain his soft copy for further examination by even another doctor, or if the patient is traveling. And also the soft copy is the best copy you can give to the patient, so he can have it with him for future reference if he is a traveling patient or if the patient is losing follow-up. So I have had a tremendous experience with EDON TrueScan color confocal fundus photography, and I would like to thank Dr. Satyan Parthasarathy sir and Mr. Fabian for introducing me into this new world of confocal fundus imaging. So today, without this, I find my practice very difficult, because every patient entering into the OP, average I see around 100 to 110 patients per day. We have a team of 4 to 5 doctors here. Almost everybody sees the patient anti-segment with slit lamp, followed by the fundus examination with the confocal imaging system. It has become one of the routine practices today due to the COVID crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prasanna. And it's good to see you sleeping for the ADA mission.
Thank you, sir.
As we don't have much of a time, we'll just go into Dr. Kishore Pahuja, and then we'll have the discussion done. Dr. Kishore Pahuja is from a place called Pimpri. He is one of the very, what I would say, the tech-savvy person. He has almost any instrument, you name it, he has it in his clinic. I've visited his clinic, and it is one of the wonderful clinics I've ever visited. So he's going to talk to us about the yield of information when you use the ADAR machine. Over to you, Dr. Kishore Pahuja.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Satyan, for your kind words. And I mean, thanks to Dr. Prasanna, because I think he made my job easier. So I'll be just shifting my gears from his talk, because my talk will be probably in a continuation with this. This is, I mean, what we say is an applying technology in COVID times. If you see that we have what he said is also, we believe that you want to have a minimum patient interaction. and then I mean, patient wants to spend less time in the hospital, and we also want that patient should not spend time in the hospital. And so that's why, you don't need a patient to dilate, and, patient has to wait, or you have to call in a patient again for the dilated fundus, and you can just look at the fundus, and then, I mean, you can just come to the diagnosis. Now, just a sec. Next. Yeah. So, I mean, we have an objective assessment, like, I mean, you are not confused whether it's on a, I mean, 3 bars or on a 4 bars. So you get a proper diagnosis with that. And you have a prospective documentation of a progressive disease. As Dr. Prasanna said, like, you have a patient that you're seeing today, you taken a fundus photograph, or you taken a disc photograph, and then, you want to follow up and see what the changes that it's having. And also it's automated, I mean, there's no rocket science, I mean, anyone can do that. The first day an intern came to me as an I mean, joined, and when I told him, I mean, she could do the imaging immediately. So, I mean, it's very easy to do that. And it's it's lace paper, eco-friendly, so you don't need to give a prints. And as he's said, and we also follow that, we send in reports via mail, and you can access images from any station in your hospital. So, I mean, I almost about 50 computers in my hospital. So, I mean, wherever I go, I just see there. Like, I mean, I'm sitting, suppose, at a topography, and I want to see that patient over there. I mean, I can access the patient over there. So what's in the workflow? I mean, the patient comes in an optometrist room preliminary, and then, I mean, he does that. And if he sees the vision is not improving, or if it's then, and after that, the patient directly goes to the imaging. I mean, we do a fundus photography. And after that, then if you find any changes, then we do a counseling with a patient, that whether you need some other investigations for that. And then we subject that patient for an investigations. And after investigation, with all the reports in our EMR, all the images are connected within EMR, and then the patient is seen by a doctor. So this is how we say as the workflow. And so what's an image quality parameters? I mean, if I say that if I see an image, what I'm going to see that, I mean, it has to be in a sharp, clear, and the resolution has to be very good. And so it also has a color fidelity, what is called a saturation. So, that's what we call as a true color. And also the exposure should not be under and over. So, I mean, it automatically decides for that. So it's not in a manual where you increase the flash. Like, I mean, I also have a Canon camera. So, I mean, in that, once you take a photograph, then you increase the illumination, I mean, increase the flash intensity, then you reduce the flash intensity, that you don't have to do anything. And anybody can capture an image. So, and second, the important thing is what I'm seeing on a slit lamp, will I be able to see that into that fundus image? And also, it also has a wow factor for an patients. So when I talk about the yield of information, so as we talked about the image quality, so we see that it's sharp, it's clear, and has a very good resolution. I mean, it's in a true color, but I see on a slit time within a 90D. And then how much time is taken? It hardly takes any time. I mean, as you said, it takes 30 seconds. And the saturation, if you see that, I mean, you can see all clear. And when you increase the size of an image, or you zoom the image, you don't lose any of the quality of the image, or pixelation of an image. And as in a diagnostic tool, I mean, as I said, that will I see what I wanted to see? Like, this is a patient who came to us, and then he had a history of trauma. So, I mean, the fundus are looking that, but then when I, took this photograph, I mean, at that time we realized that he had a concussive retina, and also a little hemorrhage inferiorly. So this is, I mean, without doing anything, the patient you can see, and then you can talk to the patient, and then so you get a lot of knowledge also along with this. Like, I mean, you see, sometimes you see the disease, I mean, the images where you start thinking that, I mean, this is where you want to share with all your colleagues, and so this is the knowledge that you get with that. And also it improves your understanding of a disease, that whether this has an edema, this does not have an edema. If you see the it's a quality of that image is so good that you can see. I mean, you can see in the macular edema over here, and then you can just send the patient for an OCT, see an OCT, then talk to the patient that you need an intravitreal injections, and the management becomes easy. So this is how you counsel the patient, and then this is then a patient that who came to me said that I cannot see in a superior part of my vision. And when I took an image, you can see a retinal detachment. Then it becomes very easy. They tell a patient that you have a detachment, you need a surgery, and next day we operated this patient. So this is, how you counsel within a patient. There's a patient who we see about last week, and then talk to the patient that you have a hemorrhage, you need a YAG hyaluratomy if you want to immediately get a vision. We did a YAG hyaluratomy, and then patient got a vision. Then, as the document progression, like as Dr. Satyan is here, Dr. Prasanna said, and I also do a lot of glaucoma practice. So I'll just share a couple of cases where this is a patient whose pressure was little on the borderline, and when we saw the disc, and the disc showed as in a disparity. So look at the left eye had a large cup, and the right eye had a small cup. So if you see a disparity on, even the optometrist who sees a disc, so we have a protocol. So if you have a disc disparity, so you immediately counsel the patient for a perimetry and an OCT. So when we, saw that there was a difference into this, we did a perimetry, the perimetry was normal. So we thought probably it's a physiological variation of this. But when we did an OCT and realized that no, patient has probably a periperimetric glaucoma. So this is, how you come to a diagnosis of a patient, where you counsel the patient, convince the patient that you need a treatment to prevent the further deterioration of a vision. This is that Dr. Satyan said, my first camera was on a DRS. So this is also my first camera DRS, and now I have got an iodine angio. And so here also you see this disparity, and then we did a perimetry. Perimetry showed some changes in the right eye, but when we did an OCT, OCT confirmed our diagnosis. So this is, it helps you that, you want to do that, and then you want to diagnose on a patient, counsel the patient, and then treat the patient. So this is just because of one instrument, you can come to from a diagnosis to a treatment, including the counseling. So this is in summary. I'll say that this is one of a video that we made on iodine. We run this in our OPD counseling. The advantage of this has happened that when the patient sees, they come and ask you that what is this? How you see this retina? And then we tell them, okay, this is that image which was taken on this. So this is all those images that you're seeing that we have seen on this. And then the patient, they know that you have so many of diagnoses which you can see only within a fundus imaging. So this is just in a 1-minute video, and just continue and see that. And this is how, as you said, through cataract also you can see images, through vitreous hemorrhages you can see the image, and glaucoma patients, glaucoma suspects, you see on a disc, and then do an OCT and then a perimetry. And if we see a patient has an optic nerve diseases, then we subject this to the advanced diabetic retinopathy. So age-related maculopathy. So we see this, and after that we did an OCT of this patient, had a macular thickness of 110 microns. So and retinal detachment, as said that we did this and then counsel the patients. Posterior staphyloma. So and the biggest advantage that I have realized is the epiretinal membrane resolution is so good that you look at that, and then you can then do an OCT, and then you can see that elevation of that. This is an RVOs. I'll just fast forward that. I'm just done with that. Yeah, it's over. So this is how we run this in our OPD, and then this also has given us an advantage of getting more use of the iodine. And today, if I say that can I work without this? I'll say no. Sometimes it happens that we take an image, do an OCT, and then we understand, okay, close this. Yeah. If I think, I mean, now we have a little time for the question answers, and if you have any questions, then we can discuss it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kishore Pahuja. It's a wonderful presentation with all the salient points where we have to use the fundus photography. In fact, all those people here in the panel have been using the fundus photography, the ADAM machines. The one problem which I face is that now, without this fundus photography, it is really difficult for us to practice. That's what I have realized. Even though you are using your hand, it's kind of extremely difficult for you to practice without this now. I think all those people will agree with that to an extent at least. So I'll just go, there are a few questions for all the panelists here. The first question are a few more questions are from Dr. P.L. Rao from Nellore. He is one of the big practitioners from Nellore with multiple centers. He has the DRS. His question to Dr. Is, Madam, your presentation pictures taken by this machine. The videos are being taken by this machine, Dr. Mansi.
Yes, the new IDON FA machine, all the video high resolution fundus angiography images were all from IDON. We are not even using the conventional one anymore. So yes, all of them were from the IDON FA machine. So the resolution is excellent, as it's really useful.
Absolutely. And
the only thing it gives an early phase of a video, and after that you can continue with the images. So
yeah, and also the advantage is that it starts taking the video a few seconds earlier than you actually press click. So you need not worry that you're going to miss on to the early frame. So decide on which eye you think is more of a priority for you. Like you always in the conventional angiography, always choose out of the two eyes which eye you want an early frame from. You choose that, pick a video for that, and then go switch on to the conventional taking pictures, making a montage of angiography. You can go ahead with that. It's an excellent machine.
True.
Yeah. There's another question which is for me from again Dr. P.L. Rao. The question is that images same clarity as the DRS? Of course, the DRS is not the highest of the technology what the Centroview uses. They have the SLO in the DRS plus. There is another machine, and the ADON and the next series of ADON they have the SLO. The advantage of SLO is even in a small people, and also when the media is not that clear, still you can have good pictures. The clarity of the images, even in the deeper layers of the retina, is much better with the ADON or the DRS plus. So once you have the SLO integrated, then you have the pictures much better than what you have in your DRS. And the dilatation, of course, we don't need the people to be really dilated. If you have about 2.2 onwards, you still get a decent pictures. And anything above 2.5, as Prasanna was showing, you definitely get almost full clear pictures. So with the one module, Prasanna, this is the question for you. With one module, how many cases you are able to see per day?
Per day, now we are doing around 110 patients, approximately 100 to 110 patients we are able to image with the help of EDON, because it is the advantage that we are having is because it is less time consuming. It is 30 to 40 seconds max. If it's a very worst case scenario where there is a patient from a rural background who is having a hunchback, in those patients also it takes maximum 1 minute or 1 minute 15 seconds max. So since it's less than
a minute, right?
Yeah, since it is less than a minute, the number of patients doesn't really make any issue. The issue is sterilizing the instrument after the patient has been positioned. That is where we clean the headrest, the chin rest, and then we take some 2 to 3 minutes for it to dry, and then we keep the next patient. So that is more time consuming than doing the fundus.
Correct. Fabian, as you are there as a technical person, the question to you is, when you take 100 patients per day, for how long
Yes.
you can take these pictures, and then what next? If the SSD drive of 512 GB, I think. So if it gets
But
over, what next?
it can be expanded. So the recent software of the add-on has the possibility to extend the space on a network folder in the LAN. So basically, even 512 GB is still many, but when you reach it, you have a new feature that allows you to extend it to a separate computer in the LAN. So basically, it's unlimited.
Storing it in the NAS drive. You can store it in the NAS drive,
Gagan,
and
how
then
many
you can.
images you can save into in a 512? Roughly the number of images, how much images you can save in that?
It's about 6 megabytes, so 500 gigabytes. First model is 256 and then 500 gigabytes, but the add-on FA actually has, I'm not so sure now, depends on which model. You have to calculate 6 megabytes in 500 is about 100,000, I think.
Okay.
But it's very easy to extend, as I said. You can connect it to a LAN, to a shared folder, and basically it will extend the space on using the computer, using the hard disk on the computer. And then also you can via LAN do a backup. That's also very important. You should also make a backup that will be, it's automatically done through the network.
Yeah, so we have one more question. We had a little bit of a discussion. What is the price of this machine? So we have different models. I would go with a basic model, the DRS. DRS, I think each zone, I have no financial disclosures as such, but it is approximately about 8 lakhs plus or minus. You have to ask your dealers. The DRS Plus is somewhere around 14 plus or minus, and then the add-on is around 21 plus or minus, and then FA and the Maya and other things, I don't have one. So I think Dr. Kishore and Mansi can share if you know the prices of.
For the Maya, you asked?
For the FA.
Yeah, well, I recommend to talk with the dealer. So
Each
I don't know.
dealer, so that you get exact pricing. So this is from
Yes,
Dr. So for your
so the
question, I
dealer,
would
the
not need
dealer
to contact our dealer. This is an approximate price which I've given you. The prices are not exact, so please do talk to your dealers. May I just request Mr. Alok to just to show my slide, the open slide, so that I can just give you the economics of this machine. Just I want to show just a couple of slides. Yeah. Yeah, can you see my slides?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just give you a very, very small example. If you have a 50 patients per day in your OPD, I'm just taking as a 35% of the patients if they undergo the fundus photography, that is about say 20 patients per day. I'm giving you the lowest of the economics, that is say 100 rupees per fundus photography. So the income is per day is 2,000 rupees. And I just calculated for the year, it goes up to about 4.8 lakhs per year. So if you're going to buy a DRS, probably you'll make your money in a 1.5 years at the max. So I'm just giving you a very small example here, but I'm not talking too much about commercials here. What is important in the fundus photography, at least from my side, is we could really make a lot of additional diagnosis than what you see with your regular SLCAM fundus examination. So which has led us to do other investigations for glaucoma or retina or neuro-ophthalmology. So there is other add-ons to that, or other additional surgical procedures may be required for these patients. So there's a lot of benefits for the patient. That's why I thought I wouldn't wait for this machine to be installed in our center. So the return of investment is not at all a problem. It makes sense to have this in your regular practice pattern. So I would rather look for a kind of making a change today itself. I wouldn't wait too long to make a change in my practice, because it has really given me a lot of advantage. There is no disadvantage so far from my side having this machine. And another question a lot of people do have, Fabian, is as it is an automated machine, do we really have any problems over a period of time, say 5 years or 6 years later? I have the DRS for the last 8 years. So far, I haven't had any problem since 2012. I have the machine. I didn't have a problem yet. But Fabian, can you answer that if you have any?
Well, the DRS was already designed to be very long-lasting, and the add-on we don't have at yet almost zero return back to the company. Zero machine had to come back. So it is designed to last at least 8 years on continuous use, and probably will go on even more. The LED technology that use, it's not an LED like a laser that you have to change, and the motors that are inside, they are all long last. So we don't have, because we have a very few return of the unit.
Okay. Dr. Mansi, Prasanna, and Dr. Kishore, do you have anything to add on to this?
Yeah. Yes. What you said is usually, we are worried about when, the machine moves from right to left, and then that's what I wanted to ask Fabian. Does anything, the motor has any problem, where, I mean, you keep on moving from right to left, up, down. So does the motors has any problem over in a, wear and tear?
I don't have many cases of problems with the motors. I don't have much report at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm quite safe to say that the cases that we have to do any return, of course, there are some service cases sometimes, but nothing so serious that requires to ship the machine back to the manufacturer. So I'm very safe in saying that. The add-on has been designed taking account also of the things we learned from the DRS. So,
and what Dr. Hassan said, I think probably we'll agree with that, because so many times we see the things on slit lamp. I mean, you keep on seeing that, but once you have a photograph, so many things that we saw, we realized that I had missed on in a slit lamp when I saw in a photograph. And then, I mean, you can change your thinking to a diagnosis where you can talk to the patient and then counsel the patient.
Yeah,
that is very, very good, especially in diabetic retinopathy and the AMDs, and of course in glaucoma as well. That is where we really miss all these three conditions. We really miss quite a lot of cases. This is one machine which really kind of helps you out to pick up almost all these early diagnosis can be easily made. Yeah, Mansi, Dr. Mansi.
Just adding on that, it is counseling a patient in a private practice. This machine makes it so easy, because if you tell the patient you have a bleed, you show them, it's so easy to convince the patient. And I personally feel our surgical conversion rate has gone up ever since we got this machine, because it's so easy for them to see themselves. There's a detachment, there's a hemorrhage, this is what we're dealing with. Post-op, you show them this is what is happening to your eye. So it convincing and counseling the patient is very easy with this equipment due to that excellent quality of photo. That is an advantage.
In cataract, once your fundus images are not clear, then we are just telling the patient, see how you see. So the patient gets convinced much easily, actually. Prasanna, your image is actually not clear. Can you hear, Prasanna? Anyway, if there are any other questions or any points to add? If it is not there, I would like to thank Fabian and each of the panelists here for your wonderful presentations. And I hope the audience would have got enough of the tips for them to use this machine. I wouldn't say you have to go and buy this today, but I think you would have understood how useful this machine is.
Yes.
Sorry, Prasanna, we just lost your connection. So thank you so
Sir,
much.
I just lost
all-
connectivity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of you. Have a wonderful and
Thank you.
safe
Thank
day.
you, sir.
We have
Thank
to
you.
say wonderfully happy.
And thank you to everyone. I also learned a lot at these presentations. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabian. Thank you, Dr. Mansi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone, have a good day.